Thanks, Poe and Bill, for making time to talk with me this morning. I'm really excited by the Sea Fuel project. I think it's got massive opportunities to contribute on the balance of payments and to saving the environment by reducing carbon emissions from flying. I'm going to introduce Bill Ireland and interview him first, and then have a separate interview with Poe for us very shortly. Bill, you're from Logan Energy, Bill Ireland from Logan Energy.
That's right.
Is there any relationship between you and Logan Air? I'm bound to be asked.
No, there isn't. Other than Logan is a Scottish name, no connection other than I use them every now and then to get up to Orkney.
Right, they fly up there, do they?
They do indeed, yeah.
Yeah. One of the interesting things for me about the way the hydrogen debate on aviation is developing is that quite clearly it's in the short term. It's going to be very short haul aviation, isn't it? So presumably a big advantage for Scotland in terms of reducing its carbon emissions.
That's right, yeah. For regional flights, it's a lot easier to store the hydrogen and basically put it through fuel cells and into electric motors on short haul planes at the moment. As that develops, it will move to longer haul flights, and there are a lot of people developing that at the moment.
Bill, I've very much come to hydrogen fuel from the aviation side, but equally clearly that's not the only use of the fuel, is it? I mean, hydrogen is a fuel. As I understand it, hydrogen offers the opportunity both to store energy and also to power machines.
Yes, it does. Yeah, it's really seen as an energy vector. It's a fuel, the same as any other fuel, really. But what this allows you to do is, from renewables, to actually generate the hydrogen, store it, and then move it into either a different sector, so into transport, into aviation. You can put it into heating, and also time shift, which is key. With renewables, you've obviously got the wind blows sometimes and the sun doesn't shine during the middle of the night. So using hydrogen, you can do longer term and larger quantities of energy storage more cheaply than other technologies.
I suppose I should admit I've got a strong personal interest in this, in the sense that we've got what is likely to be Europe's biggest solar power station coming just very close to where I live.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but the frightening thing is it's going to have the world's biggest lithium-ion battery, which I'm not so keen on. And hydrogen storage would be a lot lower risk, wouldn't it?
Yes, I mean there are lots of when you say hydrogen, lots of people worry about the safety of hydrogen, but actually we've been dealing with it for a long time. And when you talk to the fire brigades and people like that, they say, well, we'd much prefer to deal with a hydrogen incident than any other sort of incident, because when hydrogen leaks, it goes straight up very quickly. It's the lightest element around. So it escapes away from the space and goes up to atmosphere.
Yeah, at which point it hardly matters. It doesn't need to be fought, does it, once it gets
No, exactly.
Bill, do you want to explain your role in this amazing Sea Fuel project and what's going on down in the Canary Islands?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very exciting project, actually, because we're pretty much, I mean, to summarize, we're taking seawater, we're using renewable electricity, and we're providing a transport fuel, driving vehicles around. Our role in it is we're basically putting together all the equipment, and we're taking the seawater, cleaning it up, putting it into electrolyzer, generating the hydrogen from solar power, and then compressing it and then dispensing it into vehicles that we're also converting. So we've got electric vehicles that we're adding a fuel cell to, hydrogen storage, and that's basically giving them an extended range, which is quite often an issue with electric vehicles, range anxiety. And again, in a location like Tenerife, where you've actually got quite a lot of hills to go up and down, and this is very specifically, they're being used for the maintenance of the renewables, actually, at the Renewable Energy Centre on Tenerife.
So to make sure I've understood that, and to help the people who are listening and maybe learning about this for the first time, essentially what you're doing is taking seawater, of which there is as close to infinity as exists in the world. There's an awful lot of it.
Yeah.
And you're using sunshine
Yep.
to break it down into hydrogen and oxygen.
Yep.
And the hydrogen is then being captured and
Yep.
turned into a fuel, which could be used to burn in almost anything.
Yeah.
And
The
can be
hydrogen.
controlled.
Yeah, the hydrogen is the fuel. And the thing about hydrogen, as I mentioned before, is that you can actually use it for cooking. I've actually had a burger cooked on a hydrogen barbecue. That was in Australia. Again, they've got great resources there as well. And that's pretty much what you do. You put it into a fuel cell, so you're actually doing the reverse of what you did when you electrolyze it, and you're combining it with oxygen from the air. And you're generating electricity and heat. So you can use it for heat, you can use it for cooking, you can use it to produce electricity, either to go back onto the grid, so again, energy storage, or into mobile transport, planes, automobiles, boats as well. We're looking at some of those as well, barges in particular, to transport heavy goods around. So yeah, it's very versatile fuel.
And as I understand it, the initial use of the fuel in Tenerife is going to be for hire cars.
That's
And
right.
what interests me about that, Bill, is that we know that a lot of people first discovered hybrid cars, they first discovered LED lighting, they first discovered aerated showers when they were away on holiday, because they're experiencing a technology they may not have in their own home and they may not have bought it. And I'm particularly interested in that role that tourism can play in spreading the knowledge that this technology actually works and it's not
Yeah,
just a fantasy. And presumably that
exactly.
will be
If
part
you
of what
can,
you're doing.
yeah, if you can poke it and play with it, then and when you're on holiday, quite often you'll hire a car. You don't normally do that in your normal working life. Yeah, you have a car and you use that for ages. It exposes people to the technology, whether it be purely electric or whether it be hydrogen fuel cell electric, as well as buses as well. And that's another example. There are a number of bus projects around. A lot of people sort of are getting on the bus and sort of realizing that actually it's not making any noise, it's not chucking any fumes out the back, and there's usually some literature or posters on the side explaining what the bus is doing. So actually, you get public engagement with it and actually saying, "Oh, well, this works, and I'm on it, and oh, it's fun."
I mean, one of the things I'm very aware of is that TUI, the very big European operator, arguably, definitely Europe's biggest tour operator, they've done a lot to spread information about sustainability in general by communicating to their customers what they're doing, and people are having those experiences. It seems to me you potentially in Tenerife, this plays quite a big role in helping people to understand the technology and what it can achieve.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a great role. Unfortunately, we've only got 5 vehicles that are going out there, but that gives us some exposure, or the technology exposure to quite a few people. The number of people that will be coming out for a week or two. These will be there the whole time, so they can be rented out, and people can use them and
So that
experience
Bill,
how
that
quiet and
brings,
comfortable and speedy they are.
sorry to interrupt, Bill.
No problem.
That brings me very neatly to in a way my final question. I mean, you say it's only 5. I think you shouldn't be playing yourself down in that way. I still think it's amazing. And it's the first 5 would be the way I'd put it.
Exactly. Yeah.
It is the first 5. What do you need? What does the system need in order to scale this process up? Because it really needs. We've had the American president Joe Biden telling us that we're in the critical decade. This needs to happen faster, doesn't it? What do we need to do? And you're an engineer, Bill. So what? Forget the politics. What do we need to do to make this happen faster?
Well, interesting actually. You say what do we need to do? The engineering bit's easy, and we're doing it all the time. We're doing bus projects, we're doing vehicle projects, we're doing marine projects, and we're just bidding for an airline project actually at the moment. So all of that is doable engineering wise. I mean, sort of pretty much engineers, you give them a problem, they'll solve it. What the issue is actually the policies. And it's not really around politics. It's around policies and encouragement. We don't live in an energy level playing field. There are lots of subsidies and encouragements, carrot and stick, around using particular energies. and the incumbents, obviously oil and gas, are there. They're developed on a large scale. There's a lot of corporate interest there as far as maintaining the equilibrium. But actually now we're finding that the oil and gas companies are actually very much looking at renewable energy and hydrogen specifically, as well as a few other variants of hydrogen around ammonia and liquid hydrogen, that sort of thing. So what we need is scale, really, and it's actually policy to go with that to encourage the deployment of it in a similar vein to encouraging wind turbines to be deployed, solar panels to be deployed, and also electric vehicles, battery electric vehicles to be deployed. Same sort of thing. We need that encouragement and potentially penalising, particularly around, I mean, beautiful spots. When you go on holiday, you don't want to be stuck behind a bus or a car chucking out horrible fumes. If you're environmentally beautiful places, you want to have a least impact on it as possible, and that's really what we should be looking at.
I have to say, where I live in Faversham, we've got a massive problem with traffic pollution.
Yep.
And obviously we know there's been that recent court case where traffic pollution has been identified as one of the causes of a young girl's life,
Yep.
death of a young girl. It seems to me that we really need this technology to take off much faster. You
Yep.
say it's not about the politics, but actually one of the problems is surely that the old fuel, the fossil fuel lobby has been too powerful for a very long time, and we need surely to change that.
Yes, we do, but they are changing as well. But they still have a massive vested interest in maintaining the oil and gas sector operating. There's a massive reskilling we've got to do with the people that are involved in oil and gas. Dealing with hydrogen is different. It's not just a compressed gas that you need to deal with. You need to understand how it works. The whole refueling process is the generation of it, etc. So all of that holds it back to a degree. But one of the advantages is you can actually become self-sufficient in your energy supply, because and you can be independent of the of OPEC and the price regulation, I would say, rather than anything else. But if you actually generate your own renewables, you generate your own hydrogen, you can use your electricity directly from the renewables when you need it, and any excess you can then store in hydrogen, but also generate excess to actually fuel the rest of your economy.
Bill, just to check that I've understood that, what I think you're saying to me is that a country like the Gambia, which has a small stretch of coast and a brackish river,
yep,
with loads of sunshine, that's the one thing the Gambia has to excess.
Yep.
It could be generating its own fuel, which means it would not be needing to import fuel for all the other things, the refrigeration, the airlines. They could actually be selling fuel to the airlines rather than having to import it.
Absolutely, yes, yeah, very much so. That's one of the models we push, particularly, I mean, from a commercial basis, and the way to get people to adopt this is to actually prove the commercial point, and that's what we try and do all the time. Is actually look at those locations where we can actually save people money by doing an environmentally friendly thing to do, and make yourself energy independent.
Just really then, Bill, the very final question, I think, before I talk with Pau. I'm assuming from what you're saying that what we need now is to get the scale, because if we get the scale, the cost will come down as well.
Absolutely.
Just as we saw with wind power and solar.
Yep.
The reality is scale will bring its own cost reduction.
Absolutely, yeah. A lot of the equipment that's being produced at the moment is pretty much not hand built. I mean, there's machinery involved there, but it's not actually production line yet.
Yes.
And so that keeps the price high. The more we put out, the larger scale installations, it becomes far cheaper.
So if we could find maybe a group of islands which wanted to do 10 or 12 identical plants around those islands,
yep,
that would help, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah, very much so.
Well, let's hope that this interview draws that opportunity to people's attention, and maybe we'll get some progress. It's absolutely clear to me what's needed now is scaling up.
It is. Yeah.
Bill, thanks very much for that. You've given me a lot of hope.
And thank you. All right.
Thank you very much.
Cheers, Harold.
Cheers.